We have Grandmaster Arjun Erigaisi coming in. He is one of the top seeds of the FIDE World Cup 2025 and he's taking on Martin Petrov from Bulgaria. Arjun won the first game and is 1-0 in the lead and now just needs a draw in the second game with the white pieces to go through to round number 3. He shakes hands with his opponent and off we go. Arjun adjusts the clock. It'll be interesting to see how Arjun plays here. Always one of the most exciting players in the world of chess. He opens the game with the English opening, pawn to c4. And Martin plays his knight out to f6. You bring the knight out to c3. And pawn to e5. We are into the main line theory here. The knight comes out to f3. And knight to c6. The 4 knights are on the board now. Let's see what Arjun does. g3 is one of the main moves here. But Arjun strikes in the center with pawn to d4. Now this is considered as perhaps by modern engines as not the best line because it gives like black can equalize quite easily with bishop to b4 here. But the question is, will Martin be well versed with this? Well, he plays his bishop to b4, pinning the knight here, and Arjun plays pawn to g3, developing his bishop on this diagonal. This is one thing which happens often in this system is that black gives up the bishop, white then has the doubled isolated pawns. So b takes c3. You can see that these pawns are weak, but knight to a5 played, putting pressure on the c4 pawn. And now pawn to e4, defending the pawn on c4 here. Very interesting chess by Arjun, and he takes here. Martin takes on e4. Well, we have seen this before between Nepomniachtchi white and Anish Giri black, and their castles had happened, which was a better move. Taking this pawn is not the best decision because bishop g2, and now you will see the full force of white's idea. Pawn down, by the way, taking on c3 would be terrible after something like queen d2. The knight is almost trapped here. So he goes back, knight to f6. And the point to note here is that although you are a pawn down as white, the main issues that you are facing as black is the lack of development. And so Arjun can castle here, but he decides to play queen e2 check. And queen e7 is kind of a must here. So he tries to trade the queens, and it is impeccable understanding by Arjun that he realizes that the queens have to be traded. The king on e7 is slightly weak, and even though the queens are not on the board, he is able to create play against that king. c5, fantastic move, kind of limiting these pawns here, gaining space. Castles is coming in, bishop f4, rooks are swinging into b1 and e1. Martin rightly pushes his pawn to d5, opening up the bishop to block on e6 if there's any check down the e file. Arjun takes, c takes d6, and of course king takes would be met with bishop a3 check. So pawn takes is right. Look at this bishop. Oof, what a bishop. Rook b1 played. So Arjun puts pressure on the pawn on b7. And let's see what Martin does here. He plays his bishop to d7. And of course taking here would be a big mistake because of rook a b8. So one has to give it up for Martin. He is kind of catching up in development. Castles. And now a very simple move, rook h c8 should give black a decent position out of the opening, and yeah, maybe equality. But he goes bishop c6, a very, very strange move, very strange move, because now knight f5 check is possible. I mean, rook e1 check. What exactly is this move? Just this f5 square has been weakened considerably now. And Arjun can, I mean, take advantage of this in multiple ways. One of them is knight f5 and rook d1 to attack d6. He goes rook e1, which is a good move. And Martin now, well, tough decision for him where to go with his king. f8, d7, d8. He goes to d8. And I believe the best move now is knight f5. So you're putting pressure here and on d6. And it's a big advantage to white. But Arjun takes on c6. Slightly weird decision. But okay, you take back with the pawn, right? If you take with the knight, I simply take on b7. So you take back with the pawn. And now knight f5. Yeah, now he plays it. He's attacking the d6 pawn and the g7 pawn. Knight e8 would be too passive. Look at bishop f4. Look at the white pieces and their activity. It's too much. It's too much. Martin goes rook e8. He wants to trade pieces. And it's a good move. It's a good move because taking here, king takes would allow knight d, but now he can take with the knight. And exchanging that one pair of rooks is good idea. He goes rook d1. He's putting pressure here. You can't save this pawn, by the way, d5, because then knight g7 and bishop g5 coming. It's all very dangerous. So he plays knight to d5. And now knight takes d6. He takes it here. The rook is attacked. The pawn is attacked. He goes rook e6. Arjun can now take on f7, then play knight g5. And you know, he's a pawn up. He's a pawn up there. But he goes the other direction. He goes knight b7 check. And what Arjun essentially is saying here is that now we have equal material on the board. You have a knight. I have a bishop. Oh, but I'm not taking this. Wow, he goes c4. That was unexpected. So the b7 knight is hanging, but you can move the knight, right? I mean, rook b7 was maybe slightly stronger here, for sure. But he goes c4. And Martin goes knight d6. Okay, you must take on d5 now. Arjun comes back, takes the knight on d5. His advantage has reduced a bit, cd5. By the way, Martin has 8 minutes on the clock. He has to make 17 more moves. Bishop f4. Very interesting move by him. King e7. Maybe king e8 was better. These little moves, yeah, here, rook d5. And now just even material, but the bishop is just so much stronger. With pawns being on both wings, bishop can simply move here and attack this. Rook d8. And now lovely move by Arjun. Attacking here. If you save the pawn, I simply go bishop c5 or even rook b6. And I mean, this is bad. So Martin goes king e8. But he's going to lose a very important pawn here. And Arjun says, thank you so much. Now my a pawn is a monster. Is an absolute monster. Rook a8. And rook to b8 played. Rook takes on b8. Bishop takes b8. And you go knight to c4. Now, this position should be winning totally for white. But you have to be slightly careful because there is less material on the board. Like imagine you took on c4, I take on b8. This should be closer to a draw than a win for white. So Arjun needs to save that bishop. He goes bishop a7. The rook is hanging. The knight is hanging. He goes rook b4, defending the knight. I mean, better would have been perhaps to go continue attacking here. Rook c7, excellent move, cutting off the black king. Fantastic chess here by Arjun Erigaisi, like really amazing. Black goes knight e5, and now another amazing tactic. Rook e7 check. Well, the knight is hanging, you must take the rook. King takes, and now bishop c5. And not only do you have a bishop against a knight, you have a full extra pawn here, and this is winning. It will be instructive to see how to win this, because if you simply push the pawn, then the knight can blockade it. So you don't do it that way. g5 played. You first play on the other wing. Look at Arjun. f4. Fearless play. And what Arjun knows is that every king and pawn endgame is better for him. So what he's going to do is he's going to put his bishop on d2, push his pawn to a4, a5, which will actually make one of black's resources be completely tied up for the a pawn, and then slowly use his king either to go on the king side here or on the queen side. Both ways is possible. King d5, he brings his king in, king f2. This is something that Arjun would even win when he's half asleep. And king e3 played. King comes to c4, trying to get a bit active here. And now a4. Yes, pushes his pawn to a4 with the idea of a5. And Martin goes knight to e7. Well, the black king is kind of preventing the white king from advancing here, so a5 played. But there is another route here. By the way, knight d5 check. Maybe not the best. You should have come back knight c6, which would have made at least winning slightly more difficult for Arjun. Now the problem is, I'm simply going king g3, king h4, king g5, or king h5, king h6. Just coming in here. He plays king to b5. And Arjun Erigaisi plays king g3. Kind of very difficult here for maybe black has some kind of a fortress that you push your pawn to h6, then the king can't come here, but I simply play bishop c3 and get your knight out from there, and then there's nothing much to do. Knight g4 he plays. Now just h3. Yeah, he pushes his pawn to h3. Knight goes to f2 in order to stop king g5, because if he can take this pawn and this pawn, it's a draw. This is a wrong colored pawn. So bishop e3 played by Arjun, attacking the knight. Knight to e4. Well, he could have played knight d3, but then I have king g5 and taking this pawn. So here, and now bishop comes to b6. Defending this, my king can't enter to g5, but I've kind of defended this pawn, and now I'm coming this way. And he resigns. Arjun Erigaisi scores the win, 2-0 for him here at this tournament. Arjun will face now in round number 3 the winner of Shamshidin Vokidov and Maxim Chigayev. These two players are in the tie break, so we do not have a winner yet. And Martin Petrov, well, he fought hard here, but Arjun was the stronger player, and Arjun Erigaisi now up to 2775. He's gained 6 elo points from this, but Vincent Keimer also won both his games, so he is at 2780, which is very interesting. Arjun and Vincent racing each other at this point of time throughout the World Cup. It'll be interesting to see because there'll be draws. Who will be the player who will keep on winning and gaining rating points at the same time taking care of the qualification to the next round, to the candidates? A lot at stake for Arjun here, but a great start for him.